Well, hello, good people. David Taub here, bringing you another lesson at nextlevelguitar.com. And today is a very special day. Why is it special, Tim?
Because we're going to learn how to make a song?
Yes, we are going to learn a little bit of theory, and we are going to continue our theory, actually, when talking about major key and major scale, and learn what chords make up what key. And why? See, there's a reason why certain chords sound good together. And there's a reason why usually the same group of chords usually appears in a certain key. Okay? And these are the things that we're going to learn today. Now I'm going to show you a couple of things on the guitar, as well as using our handy dandy visual here, because we're high tech here at Next Level Guitar. Look at this thing, huh?
Wow.
I know. Borrowed it from Welcome Back Kotter or something like that.
From NASA.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so we're going to talk about major key in this module, and we're going to do another one later on minor key. So just think major key, because when you're talking about the chords that make up each key, there's a certain formula and why it's different from major and minor. So let's stick to major, okay? And we're going to talk about, I'm going to use this template as an example. And then you could do this for all of the keys, okay, whether you're in C or D or E flat or F or G or F sharp, whatever. The same rules apply to every major key, okay? And you can go and you could download some of these written items on our website, like the building each chord in a key, okay, in each key, the written materials, or I actually made a chart of all the different keys and all the chords in each key. This is for major key, and these are available in the written lessons section of the website. I made one for minor key too, but minor key, well, some minor key. See, minor key is a little bit more involved, because while there is only really one major scale, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, there are three kinds of minor scales. Natural minor, or what you might have called pure minor or Aeolian mode, that's one, and then you have harmonic minor, and then you have melodic minor. So there's technically three different kinds of minor scales, and you could harmonize each of those to give you all these different chords. We're just going to harmonize the major scale today. And everybody knows the major scale. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. I'm going to show you...
If you don't, get The Sound of Music. Great rent on DVD.
There you go, The Sound of Music. Now, I have another theory module on how you build a major scale. You should watch that before this one, otherwise you might not know what I'm talking about, as well as watch the module in the theory section on how chords are constructed off the major scale. As far as what's a root, what's a third, what's a fifth. You should know all these things before watching this one. I'm going to use the key of C major to discuss this template today, because C major has no sharps and flats in it. It's the only key with no sharps and flats. So anytime you're looking at a piece of music with the lines, the staff, and you see no sharps, symbols, number signs, or no small b's, flats on any of the lines, you know you're in the key of C major. On the guitar, everyone knows the major scale. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, now, no, now, no, no, now. Here it is in C. Right? Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. And I could play, you should be able to play that eventually anywhere. You could play a C major scale anywhere on the neck. Right? C major. If I was to play it in G major, the intervals or the distances between the notes would still be the same, just the pitch would change. Like here's G major. Hear how that's the same? It's the same intervals or distances between the notes. It's just you're changing the key or the pitch, but it's the same.
That relates to singing, as I learned today in my vocal lesson, that everybody's your natural, where you sound best, might be in a different key, but you can still participate in that song. But you
just
might
move
have
the
to
key.
switch the key around.
Exactly, you can move the key. And in major key, you could switch between like a song like in whatever, if it's in G major maybe, and that's a little bit too high for you to hit that G, that high G. You could drop it down like 3 frets or a minor third to the key of E, for example. And that's lower.
And you can sing it.
And then you could sing it. Or you could use a capo to switch to a key.
This is important because it'll allow you to take any popular music and sing it where it'll sound great.
Exactly, because you got to find what matches your vocal range, right? Exactly. Good pieces of advice from Mr. Gilbert sitting in the back of the classroom. He gets a gold star for that.
I was sitting in the back for a reason, though.
That's right.
Talking out loud.
Or he's interrupted. He's a
Yes,
disruptive
I am very
boy.
interruptive.
Yeah. Or he's bothering the lady students. Okay. All right. So, you see, the whole thing, and I want you to use this to start songwriting. We're going to write a song today based off of this. The whole thing is there's a certain group of chords that always are going to sound good together. And those are the chords that make up a given key. Okay? Now, any chord can appear in any given key. You can always find an outside chord and throw it in and make it work. But a certain group of chords is much, much, much more likely to appear in a given key. What chords, you might ask? Well, let's go to the chart. We're talking about the key of C. C major. Major key today. No sharps and flats in the key of C. So, the notes in a C major scale are C, D, E, F, G, A, and B. And then it keeps repeating C, D, E, F, right? And as you know from the previous module on chord construction, each note of the scale gets assigned a degree in order. The C is your 1 or your root, the D is the 2, the 2nd, the E is your 3rd, the F is the 4th, G is the 5th, A is the 6th, B is the 7th. So if I ask you, Tim, what's the 3rd in the key of C?
E.
The answer would be E, the 3rd note in a C major scale, right? What's the 5th in the key of C major? Well, you would just count 5 notes. 5th is a G.
My question is that just set? That's just the way it is?
That's just the way it is because based off of how you build a major scale. And we talked about that as far as going
So this is kind of like a
whole
law
step.
in math.
Right,
It's
exactly.
Not, this top line is not alterable.
This is a given.
Okay.
This is a
You
given.
gotta work off this.
Every major scale follows the same formula. We talked about this in a previous module. A major scale is built from the root, then you go whole step, half step, E to F is a half step, F to G is a whole step, okay, whole step, and then half step, B back to C. That's how you build any key. You don't even have to look at your guitar. Just go C, whole step. Okay, the next note in a C major scale has got to be a D, a whole step. Then another whole step. Well, I got to go from D to E flat to E. Then a half step, E to F. Okay? This is how a major scale is built. Okay? So, if you're not sure of that, go to the module a few before these on building the major scale. Alright? So those are our notes in the C major scale. Now, every note also is indicative of a certain chord. And all those chords together make up the key of C major. So any major key has 7 chords in it. Okay? There will be some type of C chord, a D chord, an E chord, an F, a G, an A, and a B chord. And those will all together make up the key of C major. Okay? Every major key has 7 basic chords
It
in it.
always has those 7, but they might be sharps or flats depending.
Right, depending on the key, and they might be major or minor, like I'm going to show you, or you can embellish them and make them 7ths or dominant 7ths. I'm going to show you that too. Okay? But the thing to keep in mind is, these 7 notes of every major scale refer to a different chord. So I'm going to show you how do you build that chord, and how do you know which chord it is. Because together, all those chords make up the key of, in this instance, C major. And those chords will much more likely appear in a song that's in C major than any other chord. Because these are always going to sound good together, these chords. Always. Because they're all going to be made up of various combinations of the notes in a C major scale. That's why they sound good together. Because they all are made up of notes in this scale. Okay? Now, I'm not saying that you can't take an F sharp chord and stick it in here and it might sound good. It very well might. You could find other chords that might work. And I suggest you do that. Because you don't always want to follow the rules to the letter. Sometimes you want to get some outside sounding stuff. But what I am saying to you is these are much more likely to appear. Okay? So how do you know which chord? Is it a major? Is it a minor? Is it a diminished? What chord is in which key? Again, it follows a formula. And I'm going to show you this formula right now. So what I did here on the left, my left, is I wrote out, again, all the notes in the C major scale. And as I go down, I just start repeating them. C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. Then I start D, E, F, and yada, yada, yada. Okay, so here's how you build all the chords in the key. It's done by a principle called stacking thirds. All you do is you go from the note you want the chord in, a third, and then another third. So you skip over a note, skip over a note. Put those three notes together and you have your chord. Okay? Here's what I'm talking about. Here's C major right here. Okay? C, D, E, F, G, A, B, and then C. The first chord in the key of C will be some type of C chord. So here's what you do. You take the first note, C, go to the second, skip over the second, go to the third, which is E, and then skip over again to the third. See how I'm skipping the third? C, skip over one, E, skip over one, G. C, E, and G. That's your first chord. C, E, and G together, anywhere on the guitar neck, is a C major chord. So your first chord in the key of C is C major. Okay? The first chord in the key of D major will be D major. I mean, no surprises there, right? And anywhere you play a C, E, and G on the guitar, C, E, open G. Just repeat the notes. See, here's my C major. C major chord. If I play it here, C, there's my G, there's my C, there's my E. C major, C major.
Do they have to be in order?
No, not necessarily. And that's how you get all your inversions and whatnot. Any C, E, and G together is a C major.
I don't know if they heard me that way.
Yeah, it doesn't necessarily, you don't have to necessarily always play the root, then the third, then the fifth. You could play the root, the fifth, then the third. Or the third, fifth, then root.
Flip them around.
Flip them around, exactly. But anywhere on the guitar neck, you have a C and G, you have your C major triad, or triad 3, and that's a C major chord. So the first chord, and you construct every chord to follow like that. You skip a third, skip a third. So the first chord in this key of C major is a C major chord. Okay, let's do the second chord. By the way, you like my Christmas ink here? I'm using red and green. Pretty nice, even though it's, what month is this? April. Okay, the second chord in the key of C major is some kind of D chord. So let's look at the D. Then again, just in order, you skip to the third, you have an F, and then skip over the G to the A. See, you skip your third, skip your third. D, F, and A is the second chord in the key of C major. A D, F, and A together is D minor. It's a minor chord, okay? So the second chord in any major key is a minor chord, all right? The first chord is major, second chord is minor. We're doing it in C. So in C major, you have a C major and a D minor, okay? And D, F, and A. So anywhere you play a D, F, and A together, here's an F, here's an A, there's a D. Actually, that's a D and an open D. D minor. Notice, nice and dark sounding. Minor chords are dark. Here's a D minor bar chord. D, here's my A, D again. There's my third, my F, and there's my A again. D minor. Anywhere on the guitar neck. Here's a little D minor chord here. D. Okay.
Stuff applies to chords or solos?
Yeah, like my D minor triad. D note, F note, A note.
That sounds like, what's that from?
D minor, it's in tons of stuff.
Yeah, that lick there, is that Pink Floyd song? I don't know,
it's in tons of songs.
Yeah, it's
all it is the minor triad. Everywhere, exactly. D, F, A. It's a D minor triad, okay? So the second chord in the key of any major key is a minor chord. In this instance, D, F, A, D minor. The third chord in this key is some kind of, in any major key, in C, is some kind of E chord. So what do? We go to the E